The official newspaper files of the early West record many stories of famous and notorious characters of that period. John Wesley Hardin, a Texas bad man who was unique in the outlaw annals of even that unique state.
I had heard of him before I ever came to Texas. He kills men just to see them kick, and on one occasion charged Quavo alone with the yell of rats to your holes. And such a shutting up of shops has not been seen since the panic. He can take 2 6-shooters and turn them like wheels in his hands and fire a shot from each at every revolution. Such was the legend of John Wesley Hardin, as recounted by an 1874 letter to the Austin American-Statesman, written under the pen name Pidge by Texas Ranger T.C. Robinson, then under Captain McNelly, who was briefly assigned to clean up the mess of a feud in which Hardin played a part. Though the letter smacks of exaggeration, put in print for circulation, it speaks to the size of John Wesley Hardin's reputation and how he had captured people's imagination, reportedly striking fear into the hearts of not just lawmen and citizens, but also of office holders. Hardin may have been responsible for as many as 40 murders in Texas along the Chisholm Trail and in the Kansas cowtowns, though at the time of his trial at age 24, his claimed tally of 27 was taken with a grain of salt. Nevertheless, he was acknowledged to be very dangerous. A portion of his teenage years were spent in central Texas, and following that trail through the region not only illuminates the violence of one troubled teen, but also reveals the larger significance and active role plays in historical preservation of physical history such as buildings. Father James set him up in Navarro County as a teacher presiding over a school in Pisgah. On the side, Hardin began cowboying, and what free time he had began to play cards, and he took a fancy to it and to gambling in general. His activities outside the classroom that his father had set him over put him in the acquaintance of the most notable Southern outlaws and rebels in the county. His brother came down and helped him move to Hillsborough in Hill County, but John Wesley Hardin's recreational habits came with him, and he found the card games there too. Then he found the horse races at a nearby town named Tawash. The town is now at the bottom of Lake Whitney, about 40 miles northwest of Waco. Simpson Cash Dyer and his brother James Harrison Dyer had in the mid-1850s opened one of the first grist mills in the region, about where Tawash Creek flowed into the Brazos River, then had expanded in 1860 to carding wool. By 1866, the town also had a cotton gin. The Tawash mill was, however, eventually destroyed by fire, and the whole town inundated with water in 1953 when the Whitney Dam was built. Aware of John Wesley Hardin's lifestyle in Hill County, his parents were again considering moving, and in writing were attempting to persuade him to join them. Then by John Wesley Hardin's own account, James showed up in person December 24th, 1869, to urge the unpenitent teenager to come with them. But Christmas Day, John Wesley Hardin borrowed his father's horse to go into Tawash and play poker. He claimed to have been winning quite handily when one of his opponents, a fellow with the last name Bradley, cursed him out and demanded money. The fight ended in the street in a fatal shootout in which Hardin proved the victor. The gunfight was notable enough to be reported in newspapers as far away as the Southwestern and Shreveport copied the story, though that newspaper's report got the names switched and claimed that Bradley killed Hardin. Hardin suddenly found the motivation to leave Hill County, escaped a posse, and joined his concerned family in Navarro County. That was John Wesley Hardin's old stomping grounds, though. So he left his family there and headed for Brenham in late January of 1870. Hardin claims to have stopped en route in Horn Hill, where standing around a fire that night, he supposedly was in an altercation with a roadie from a traveling circus. As Hardin's tale went, he bumped the roadie's hand while he was lighting his pipe, and the man threatened to slug him. Hardin told him to go ahead, and the man did, then went for his gun, at which Hardin claims to have drawn his own, and shot him. Although historians have questioned the details of Hardin's account, there was a confrontation reported in newspapers between circus personnel and rowdies who refused to pay at Union Hill, Texas, on January 21st, 1870. It ended in a shootout when the 3 rowdies returned, one of them dying the next day, and the circus personnel all unscathed. However, according to Hardin's account, he then continued to Cossie. Going through Horn Hill, before Cossie en route to Brenham is a much more plausible route, being that Horn Hill to Cossie is just over 20 miles, but Union Hill is down by Brenham and a full 100 miles from Cossie, though Hardin could have also misremembered a few dates. In any case, he then continued to Cossie, a small town that boomed about 1870 when reached by the end of the rails being constructed from Houston. Stores, hotels, and several cotton gins all quickly popped up in Cossie, even as the rails built further north. Though most of the old downtown is still intact to this day, the old hotels are gone, including the Dillon Hotel, which may have been the site of another Hardin incident. Hardin met a girl he fancied and had an evening tryst with her that was interrupted by another man. The man demanded $100, but Hardin said he did not have the full amount on his person and would have to go retrieve the rest from his saddlebags. When the man demanded what Hardin had on him, first, Hardin dropped the money on the ground. The man bent down to grab it, and Hardin drew and shot him, slaying him. Hardin did not give the man's name in his own account, though several historians have pinpointed the man as Allen Comstock, and some have stated he had the dubious occupation of pimp, Hardin's romance being one of the man's girls, and hardly a man's sweetheart, as Hardin's sanitized account later proclaimed. Hardin indicated that he did not leave town right away, but lingered several days and did not arrive in Brenham until January 31st, 1870. Hardin did not stay long at Brenham. His uncle thought the authorities would come looking for him, so Hardin bumped about Texas over the course of the next year, going to Evergreen and passing through Pisgah and Mount Calm, and spending time briefly down in Round Rock, before heading toward Shreveport, Louisiana. He was, however, arrested by Texas State Police en route in Longview, just shy of the border between Texas and Louisiana, on a warrant issued for accessory to murder of Waco City Marshal Laban John Hoffman. In a barbershop downtown, Hoffman, formerly of the Texas State Police, was getting a shave in the shop, where 2nd Street passed through the square, when a man entered the back of the barbershop and shot him in the back of the head, then took off running. The downtown square has changed greatly since then. Though a tornado destroyed much of Waco in 1953, that part of the downtown area had been razed more than 20 years earlier in favor of a new city hall, built to usher Waco into the future. Lieutenant Stokes and Private Jim Smalley of the Texas State Police were bringing Hardin back to Waco when they stopped in Marshall, Texas, and briefly placed Hardin in the jail there. There he purchased an overcoat and a Colt .45 revolver, which, when he was sure they would be continuing the trip to Waco, he tied with a cord to his left side over one shirt and under another, then put his overcoat on above that. Lieutenant Stokes searched him, but poorly, and did not find the hideaway gun when they took him out of the jail. They traveled for several days, and the night that they stopped in Freestone County, while Stokes was away seeking feed for the horses, Hardin drew his hidden revolver on Smalley and shot him, then escaped on Smalley's horse. According to Hardin's account, he stopped in Mount Calm to see his father and switch horses, then headed for the border, but did not make it far. He claimed to have been arrested again between Waco and Belton by 3 inebriated Texas State Police officers named Smith, Jones, and Davis. They intended to go to Austin with him, but continued drinking. Jones and Davis went to sleep, and Smith was to take first watch, but also fell asleep. So Hardin grabbed their guns, killing Smith and Jones with a double-barreled shotgun and emptying a revolver into Davis. The only accounts of this incident, though, coming from Hardin himself, render it unconfirmed. Hardin then proceeded again to flee, but stopped with his cousins, the Clements, near Gonzales, Texas, who instead prevailed upon him to help lead a cattle drive to Kansas. His violence and card playing continued without pause through the roundup and over the drive. He lingered in Kansas a while, playing cards in Abilene under aliases, till his growing trail of dead bodies and people's disdain for murder motivated him to continue running. He returned to Texas, became entangled with the Taylor-Sutton feud in Gonzales, and when apprehended again by Texas State Police, killed one and wounded another, so he remained on the run under false names.